Hello chess friends, welcome back to our YouTube channel. So here's a very instructive chess endgame by Jose Raul Capablanca, the third world champion. He was playing against Blanco. This was a very early game. It was played in 1901. So quite an early period of time for Capablanca, and he was just making his rise, his ascent into the chess world. And yet at this point, he was very strong. As you can see from this endgame, we'll learn a lot from his endgames. He was one of the best endgame players in the world. So this is definitely going to be a treat for us. And as you can read from the quote above, this was by Capablanca himself. He said, "To improve at chess, you should, in the first instance, study the endgame." Yeah, actually, when you study the endgame, most players, specifically early on in their career, do not spend a lot of time in the endgame. Actually, if you spend a lot of time in the endgame, your overall understanding of chess will increase by huge margin, right? And you'll be able to save a lot of positions which look at least, virtually look lost. So actually, endgames are a vital part of our, and we know this, right? Everyone recommends you to study the endgame, and yet we do not spend enough time. But do take the third world champion's recommendation. Do take his advice for serious, right? So here we go. White to play, win the game. You have to be very precise. You have to make some really precise, accurate moves in order to win. So I'll leave you with this position for a few seconds. Here we go. All right, so hopefully you've got a taste of what is going to happen. It's a very instructive end game. So let's dive into it. White obviously has to make the first move is you can see the king cannot step away from the pawn as he'll just capture the pawn, right? And life becomes very difficult. So you have to play h4. You might ask what's the idea behind this? Can't the black king stop it easily? Actually, he can try. King f4, pawn to h5, king g5. Now he's basically attacking the pawn and it seems that there is no way to protect it, right? But there's a key move here in this position. White must find the move king to f7. This is a brilliant move. So what's the point? Well, in the game, king h6 was tried, but let's look at what happens if the pawn is captured. Black can simply capture the pawn. The point is now you can take on g7, and the f pawn runs home, right? He's going to queen. What happens if the f pawn is captured? A very similar story. You capture the g7 pawn, and the rook's pawn is going to run. We are on the key square. He cannot stop us. So that wins, right? So he cannot capture either of the pawn, the h or the f pawn. What can he do? He can try to hold on to his pawn by playing king to h6, which he did. But here's another key move: king to g8. It's beautiful the way this game is. It's very much like a study, right? The king has to retreat to f7 and then to g8, far away from your own pawns, and that is the way to win. Incredible. And doesn't matter what he does now, it's basically lost. So you can't use this square as both the pawns are attacking. So you have to capture. If you capture this, king g7, and yeah, one of the pawn runs. And what else can you do? Well, king g5 is just dead loss because after king takes g7, you have to deal with two pawns. One of them will come forward and get the protection from the white king, and this is completely lost. So beautiful example, a very instructive one. In fact, the key move king f7 was really lovely, and it's a very simple example, but I thought we can learn a lot from this. So king f7, the key idea, followed by king g8, simply a spectacular idea. You're stepping away from your pawn, and that's the way to win. So Capablanca, even at this point in his life in 1901, he was very strong, and especially uh, he's called as a chess machine, right? He was a genius at end games. So beautiful example by the world champion, third world champion, and hopefully we have learned a lot from this. So I'll just leave you with this position on the board. Thank you for watching, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel.